And I think Brazier could be your seventh inning guy for sure. So I think Brazier's in the conversation for either or. And if you got that guy pitching the way he is in the seventh or eighth inning, then, I mean, just wrap it up, right? Because once the seventh or eighth inning rolls around, we got Kimbrel, who's looked good in his last couple starts as well, which is promising. Well, appearances, I should say.
Yeah, and Kelly is starting to look better. His changeup seems to be getting a little bit more effective, and I'm still fairly comfortable with Barnes. I know he kind of ruined the streak today, but he's had a pretty solid year. I mean, this is the best year of his career, and I would assume you'd probably see him more in a sixth or seventh inning role in the postseason, but still a pretty effective guy to have.
Yeah, you need that, and he can always slot up as well if you need the, if you need that, either because someone's struggling or there's an injury or something. So it's good to see that he's flexible and can go anywhere, basically, because, for a while, at least I thought at the beginning of the year and the last year, I was like, that could be our eighth inning guy or seventh inning guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just no split fingers.
Yeah.
Work
on that. Like today, though, I do like it, so I'm happy about that. I'm happy that he's trying with different things, and it's not always going to go well. But it's good.
But then again, if it worked, we'd be like, let's throw that pitch a ton.
Yeah, right. He'll definitely be all right, and I think his pitches will be good. And it just shows, pitching coaches and Cora and stuff like that really working with these guys that were question marks the last couple of years because of Farrell and the team there that we had and the coaches. So
right. And Brian Johnson got off to a rough start, and every podcast I keep saying it over and over again, the floor is going to fall out on this guy, and he gives up 3 runs in the first, and I'm like, oh, here we go. This is the start. We're just not going to be in it, from the very outset. And he settled down and retired, I think, like 12 in a row after that, and looked pretty well.
It was he didn't give up another hit. Yeah, he didn't give up a hit from at the second inning all the way until the double that he gave up before he left.
Right.
So he was nails again. He had one that he had, like you said. I thought the same thing. I was like, oh, well, there it goes. This is the one stinker game. It's all right. Get it out of the system, and then we'll be okay. But man, he was great again. I mean, he was 1 out away from a quality start. And if we were winning that game 10-3, and he wasn't throwing 90-something pitches, Cora would have left him in there because he had nothing to lose. So, and he's done it before with Johnson. His pitch count just got high, but Johnson continues to be a huge part of this team, and he will be in the future as well because you never know about guys like Stephen Wright, who gets older and seems to always have nagging injuries. Guys like Eovaldi, is he coming back next year? Erod's a part of this future, this team, but then you got guys like Porcello. Is he going to be here in 2 years when in 2020 when he's a UFA? Do we re-sign him? We don't know that. And Brian Johnson has 2 years left of team control after this, and then his arbitration starts. So the fact that you're going to have him for cheap, and he's shown that he can be mid-relief, long relief, and a starter, and you have him on the contract until he's 32, it's great.
Yeah.
He had the most literal meaning of a rough start that I've ever seen. Dude struggled in the first inning. Smooth sailing after that.
Yeah, I'm rooting for him because he's had a really tough road all the way to get to this point, and we saw flashes of it last year, but then he would get hurt again, and in the back of my mind, he was treated for anxiety, and that's the last thing you want with a player in Boston, and he just seems to have overcome it and shows some grit. When his back gets put against the wall in situations like that. And I like him. So I'm just curious. He's out of options, so, he's going to be here until we trade him, if that day ever comes.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he's here for sure. And if we trade him, it will be for not a little piece. So he'll be a part of a bigger piece, most likely. And former first-round pick. People forget that.
Yeah, that's a good point. His value could certainly rise, and it's certainly a lot higher than it was a few months ago. David Price Dominant again, showing excellent command, all over the strike zone, especially on the corners. Isn't
Hooray.
it? I mean, we all fantasize that he will not get a start and he'll be in a super utility role where he would probably thrive, but I mean, he's a starter at this point in October.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing either. It's not like we're like, oh no, obviously his history, right? We're like, oh god, here comes David Price, but he's been very, very, very good this year, and you can even go back to last year if you really want to, and he's been good for 2 years now. He was hurt last year, right? He only pitched in 16 games, started 11 of them, only threw 74 innings. He's going to throw 100 more innings this year, obviously. But you take his postseason last year where he was nails. He was unbelievable. He's probably our best postseason pitcher last year.
Easy.
And his ERA last year was a 3.38 with a 1.1 whip. This year, with double his innings already, it's a 3.69, which is nice, and a 1.1 whip. So he's bringing that down. Obviously, 2 of those big starts are the Yankee starts. You can't eliminate them, obviously. And, his last start against the Yankees was also very good. So the fact that he had 2 complete stinkers in there against the Yankees and still is a 3.6 ERA just shows how dominant he's been outside of that.
Yeah, with Houston last year, they were one of the worst teams when it came to lefties, so that might have played a part in it. But and then Cleveland coming up here historically has hit lefties really well, so this could be a real test. And we don't know who we're going to face in the ALDS at this point.
Could be anybody.
Yeah, Oakland's certainly given Houston a run for their money. But Price did have a very nice start against Houston earlier this year, and that was not long at all, like days or maybe just a couple weeks removed from that controversy in New York when he took himself out of the start to get the test done in Boston. So that could be another team that he could look good against, because like I said, last year they weren't good with lefties, and he does have the 1 start this year, and we do have a 3-game set remaining against them in September. So that could potentially be a decent matchup for him. Yankees hit lefties fairly well though, so. But they're hurting right now. And I guess Gregorius took one or did something to the heel of his foot today and could be headed for the disabled list. So
that wouldn't be good for them.
Yeah, and that just makes me wonder, like, in the back of my mind, nobody ever brings it up, but could they slip out of this? Like, could Seattle go on a bit?
There's a possibility that they could, for sure.
Absolutely,
especially with as well as Oakland is playing right now, and the fact that, Houston's about to get Jose Altuve back next week. Tide's kind of changing a little bit. Plus, the only thing that needs to happen is for Seattle to get hot. The only thing, in my opinion, that hurts that is the fact that Houston, Seattle, Oakland all play each other a lot coming in the next couple months, like next month and a half, I guess. And I have a feeling that Seattle's just going to get trounced by those teams.
Yeah,
most likely.
Right.
But they did just sweep Houston.
They did.
So you never know. They're 4.5 back out of their division race, Seattle is, but the wild card, they are only 3.5 out. So pretty much they're fair game for both. And the Yankees lead it, obviously. They have 4 up on Oakland, but they could fall out, but they could easily make it, win that wild card, and get blown up by Houston or Oakland in the first, the wild card playing game. So, I don't really know what's going to go on then. I think Seattle does do what Seattle does, though, and just lose and choke. So I think they end up getting, kicking themselves out, and I think New York holds on just fine because I don't think the end of their schedule's too tough. They play us a bunch, but, they might get lucky where we might be throwing out Velasquez, Johnson, and Eovaldi or Erod in a, more of a rehab start, short 4 or 5 innings only allowed in that series because we might have the division and the conference locked up at that point.
I think the key component, though, for the Yankees not making it is just for the floor to fall out on them, regardless of what other team does. That has to happen.
Yeah,
yeah.
They would have to shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, if Seattle can play slightly above 500 ball, and then that happens to New York, then it gets dicey, I feel like. And I also wonder, you bring up, maybe with the Red Sox resting certain guys, I wonder if they'd be less likely to do it if it meant that they could play a big part in keeping New York out of the playoffs. And the reason I think about that is because last year, Houston didn't really have a ton to play for themselves, but they still hammered away on us and almost forced us into a game 163 and then possibly a one-game wild card. So I just wonder if the Yankees were in kind of a perilous state, if that could happen.
Yeah, we could play spoil on them for sure. I don't know if it'd be worth it because, it sounds good on paper, right? It's like, yeah, we can knock him out of the playoffs, but say we throw Sale in that game and he gets hurt, or, that's just one extra start that you throw him, or you throw one of your starters like Price and he, gets banged up or something like that, then you're like, oh, what the hell, who cares? But, I wouldn't like anything better than to, win one of those games, knock the Yankees out. But like you said, I think the Yankees they're going to end up making the wild card game, and what happens after that, I don't know. If the season ended today, I would not pick them to beat Oakland in the first round.
I don't think I would pick anybody to beat Oakland.
No, the only team I could think of beating them at this point in a one-game playoff would be Houston. But there's no way that's going to happen.
Chris Saunders put it best. He texted me the other day. He probably did with you guys as well, and said that Oakland this year is the 2008 Tampa Bay Rays, and that's a perfect comparison, I feel like.
Yeah, it's a very good comparison, and it's similar to the 2015 Royals as well, and the 2014 Royals, where they're just getting it done with the roster that you wouldn't think, and it's just unexpected, and they're just getting hot and riding it right now. So they're a scary team to face. They beat us up a little bit this year, but I'm more confident in our team now than when they were beating us when we were playing 500 ball, and Minai's not going to throw a no-hitter again, I don't think, so I feel pretty good against any team at this point. We're the best team in the league by leaps and bounds. So,
yeah, and
best team in the world.
I think the big question here is where is that wild card game going to be played? Is it going to be in New York or is it going to be in Oakland?
If it's in Oakland, the Yankees have no chance.
Yeah,
that place is a madhouse. I've been listening actually because I live in Texas, so I can't obviously watch Astros game because they're in market, but I've listened to it, and that is the loudest stadium that I've heard in a long time. Just a madhouse.
Yeah, and MLB probably wouldn't be thrilled with that, like MLB officials, because they'd want it to be in New York, the center of the universe, and a state-of-the-art stadium. But if Oakland wins, that's just greif go ahead.
If you're Major League Baseball and Matt Olson, Chris Davis, and Sean Manaea knock out Luis Severino, Aaron Judge, possibly Gary Sanchez by then, out of your playoffs when they generate so much revenue, aren't you pissed if you're the league office when it happens in Oakland?
Right, absolutely. That's why it would have been so epic if the Twins won the wild card game last year. That would have been
a
good start.
Yeah, they did. They pissed that one away. That goes back to my point that it's not much of an advantage for the Yankees to play in Yankee Stadium because the home run ball works for both teams. And in a one-game playoff, that's maybe not what you want when your pitching is not your strength, that team.
No, you would rather pitch Yankees, somewhere like AT&T.
Yeah, or even Oakland, where,
Oakland.
Oakland's not a hitter's ballpark by any means, and I don't think anyway. So the ball doesn't seem to launch out of there. It's got, big outfield for an American League ballpark, but still, it'll stay in. So it'll be interesting either way. I think the Yankees host that game, though.
Oakland also has probably the most foul ground territory of any other field, so a lot of cheap outs can be had due to that.
Yeah, 100%.
So Matt Martin makes an excellent point too. So if the Yankees do win the wild card, right, it'll be Tanaka, Sale, Sabathia, Price, and then Severino, Porcello to start the ALDS.
Yeah.
So that's a